Our guest, Sam Polk, is a former hedge fund trader, and he left Wall Street after he says he was addicted to wealth. He went on to found a nonprofit called Grocery Ships that helps to feed people that don't have the money to eat well. He joins us now to tell us his story. So thanks for being with us. I want to kind of first set the stage of your time on Wall Street. So you write that your last year, your bonus was $3.6 million, and you were angry because you wanted more. It wasn't big enough. So how much would you say you made during your time on Wall Street at over 8 or 9 years? And what were some of the other alluring perks of the job?
I mean, I can tell you pretty much, if I remember correctly, what my bonuses were. My first year was $40,000, my second year was $75,000, my third year was $125,000. Then I moved up to $500,000, and then $1 million, and then $1.5 million, and then that $3.75 million. But one of the things that didn't come out in the article is that I actually had to leave half of that $3.75 million on the table when I left, and that was just sort of an issue with contractual stuff. So whatever that adds up to, that's what I made.
And what were some of the other perks of the jobs? The tickets, the restaurants?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It was crazy, like being like a 25-year-old in Manhattan, and there was like, you know, the idea of like, you know, you could go to a World Series game just by calling somebody. Like, it was an easy thing to go to a World Series game, which for a lot of people is like a dream. And, you know, sometimes I would fly in from a business trip and I'd come home and there would be like a black car waiting for me with my name on it. And it was really like a tremendous feeling of like importance and power, especially as a 25-year-old kid, you know?
Sure, so you're important, you're powerful, you're living the life in Manhattan, not an easy thing to do. You're making great money, you're on a career path that would continue to be very lucrative and you would have a lot of stability. Why leave that all?
Well, one of the things I came to realize was that I had sort of been using money as this sort of thing that would quell all my fears. So I had this belief that maybe someday I would get enough money that I would no longer be scared, I wouldn't feel so insecure anymore, I would feel successful and important. And one of the things I learned on Wall Street is that no matter how much money I made, money was just never going to do it.
And it's interesting because you cast this in a way in your op-ed that is more broadly pernicious and a more broad issue among some of your colleagues. So how big of an issue do you think this wealth addiction was on Wall Street, and kind of what's the best evidence of that?
Well, look, I think that all of us sort of look at these statistics that are like 85 people have more wealth than the bottom 3.5 billion. And it's something that I think goes against everybody's sort of moral compass, and yet we're wondering sort of how it exists and why it exists. And how is it that, you know, folks at the top who are making so much money are still focused on accumulating more for themselves. And I just know from my experience that it was because of what I just said about this idea of like, I still felt like I didn't have enough. And I was so sort of like distorted about, you know, my wealth compared to the rest of the world. And I think that is like a problem on a bigger scale.
College students have reached out to you and said, I don't know what to do. I want to make money and be stable and set myself up and take care of my family. I want a job that pays well, but I also want to do something meaningful. So what kind of decisions, what do you think should impact their decisions?
Let me just answer it this way. I spent 8 years in a career that was sort of focused on accumulating money so that I could ease my fear. And so what I look at it is, I look at it, that was like a fear-based way of living. And one of the things that was really scary about leaving Wall Street is that, you know, I could see what my career path looked like on Wall Street. And I felt like when I stepped off that path that I was sort of disappearing into anonymity and I didn't know what else was there. And one of the things I had to do was like have faith that something would come, that the universe would provide, that even faith in myself, that I could sort of, you know, manifest something that didn't exist now. And so what I would say to those college kids is like, first of all, I get it. It is a tough spot. I'm not saying that money is good. Money has definitely helped me and it helps me today. At the same time, you know, I was on a train that a lot of people stay on their whole lives, which is saying, one day I'll have enough and one day I can really live my full life. And for me, you know, one of the, you know, kind of benefits of working with such wealthy people is that I just saw that it was never going to happen, and I was going to waste a life, you know, trying to kind of quell fear.
All right, Sam Polk, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yahoo!
女人嘅自信嚟自每個細節，但係又剃又掹，令腋下暗啞泛紅。 Nivea 淨白止汗噴霧，全身。